Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. I've been calling this the Year of the Woman. I am focused on having us look at how women are engaging with each other, with our culture, with the world. I absolutely do believe that women are the ones who help to make this world go around and are often the leaders of that. This year in particular, many of us are focusing on women and the strengths and some of the challenges. And so my guest today is a woman I've known for many, many years who has devoted a lot of her life and particularly her work as a filmmaker on examining what's happening to women in our culture. Let me tell you about her. She is Tonya Lewis Lee, an award-winning filmmaker, author, and entrepreneur whose impactful work addresses vital social justice issues. A graduate of Sarah Lawrence College and the University of Virginia School of Law, Tonya combines her legal experience with her creative vision to drive meaningful change. Most recently, she co-directed and co-produced the acclaimed film Aftershock. It's on Hulu right now, and it garnered many accolades, including the 2024 DuPont Columbia Award, a 2023 Peabody Award, a 2022 Sundance Special Jury Impact for Change Award, and an Emmy nomination. As a television producer, Tonya has made significant contributions to projects like She's Gotta Have It and The Watsons Go to Birmingham, while her best-selling children's books, co-authored with her husband Spike Lee, have inspired countless young readers. Additionally, as the founder of Movita Organics, she is dedicated to promoting women's health through premium vitamin supplements, fostering conversations about well-being and empowerment. Tonya's done so much, and I'm just thrilled to be able to talk to her. Now, we talk when we're at events, but now we get to bring her on the platform of Dreamleapers and talk to her about all that she's been doing. Please join me in welcoming Tonya Lewis Lee.
Hi, Harriette. It's so good to be here and to be in conversation with you. Like you say, we do see each other here and there. We're always moving quickly, but it's great to sit down for a moment and chat.
Yeah, well, and I saw you most recently at ColorCom. And at that conference, all these women of color in the communications industry who really hungry for their hearts to be filled, for their souls to be filled, as everybody is climbing and growing and trying to do their best. And I think that your message of personal empowerment and just female empowerment in general was very important to them. You are speaking out a lot about female empowerment. Why is that important to you, and what is the message that you want to get across?
Well, I think, it started with my infant mortality and maternal mortality work way back in 2007. The Office of Minority Health out of the Department of Health and Human Services asked me to be a spokesperson for their infant mortality awareness raising campaign. And when you talk about infant mortality, you're really talking about the health of a woman. We think we're talking about the health of an infant, but we're talking about a woman. And really what I've discovered and learned in my journey and now fully understand is that truly women's health is the basis of the health of our societies, of our communities, of our world. If women are not well, no one else is going to be well. And so I just know that we need to be empowered. We need to feel good. We need to be able to tap into the purpose that we are here for. I believe we're all here for a purpose, and it's about us trying to figure out what that is. And it doesn't have to be a big purpose, a big lofty, public purpose. It can be something that's even as much as taking care of our families, right? And so,
right,
is of the most important. So I think that for me, I recognize that women are the basis of our society. And I'm thinking about my future, if I'm so lucky to have grandchildren, great grandchildren, and the people that are coming after us. And so we need to be well for that.
And I'm thinking just for another moment about those women that we saw at this conference. There were I think there were about 3 or 4 generations of women of color at this conference, which was significant because cross-generational involvement is very important, I think, for the future of the world. And one of the things that I heard over and over in one way or another was, how do we fill our cups? We are so driven, many of us, to excel. And at every age, I listened to people who were exhausted and who were frustrated that the glass ceiling is still real, that when they do get to the point of having children, there are often challenges, that people hide whatever health issues they have because they just want to seem like Superwoman. And if they don't, they sometimes feel like they'll fall off the, that perpetual wheel. What do we say to those women who are junior to us that may help them to perhaps do a better job than we've done?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think the key is, I'm a believer in radical self-care. Like I know for some people that can sound a little woo-woo and who has time and yada yada, but it's real. And I think that we have to think about our lives as stages and phases. And we're all in a relay of humanity. And what I mean by that is, there are people who've come before us, and we are here now. And again, there are going to be those that come after us. And we are just carrying the baton a little bit further, than the people that did before. And so what I say is, pace yourself, understand that life is stages and phases. And there will be times when you will not be able to do what you want to be doing at the level that you want to be able to do it. Be okay with that because you're in this stage. Understand that sometimes it's a pivot. You got to make a pivot in life. Let's not be so hard on ourselves. But at the end of the day, the key is to take care of your mind, body, and spirit as a priority, so that when you do show up in those spaces, when you are trying to push further and farther and higher, that you actually have enough gas in your tank to be able to actually do it and have clarity of mind to understand when it's really time for you to pivot and figure something else out, as we often always do and have to. That's really what I would say. I mean, I think it's really as simple. It's as simple sounding as that. It's not as easy to do.
Simple things are often the most difficult. One of the things that I appreciated in listening to you talk about your life is your vulnerability and transparency. And I think very often, because like you, I'm often on a stage addressing an audience. And what I've learned is that people look at the ones on stage as if they're perfect, as if they're rich, as if, whatever the extreme positive is, they attribute that to the person on the stage as opposed to themselves. There's always this sort of judging of themselves compared to that person. And so I often look to say something that will humanize my life with theirs. And one of the things that you shared that I appreciated so much was about your childhood. And as a young person, you struggled with your weight. Now, people who would see you now go, they're jealous because you have what Mike called this model body. And but people,
I know what you're saying.
People have these opinions of who they see on stage. And if you are not, and I might get in trouble for this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. If you are not really overweight, the assumption is you're skinny and therefore your life is perfect. A lot of people have that thinking.
Right.
So you talked about struggling with your weight as an overweight kid and what happened with that. Could you tell us that story?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, look, it is, nobody knows the journey that people take and how they get where they got, right? And everybody has struggles and things. And my situation as a young person, when I was 13, I was a chubby kid, and I went to the doctor, and my mother and the doctor decided that I needed to go to the doctor for weekly weigh-ins. And so I would go in for a weekly and probably in today's world, I probably wasn't that overweight, but like back then it was like, and it's so interesting because things change. And it was like, everyone was so worried about me being chubby. And even my relatives.
Tonya, at 13, that is a time when we're so vulnerable. You're becoming a teenager. Everything is sensitive. And weekly weigh-ins, did that feel like a judgment?
It's interesting. I don't remember the weekly weigh-ins feeling like judgment, but I do remember being fat shamed. Oh, a
Mm,
100%, a lot. I mean, even by family members. I mean, God bless my grandmother, well-meaning, but she used to call me fatso. Look at you, fatso, just as fat as you want to be, you
mm,
know? And like, that's just how people talked, you know? I was the chubby one. My sister was very skinny, and so she was the thin girl and perfect. And you know, both my parents were naturally thin and I was not that. And so it was like, oh my God, we gotta get you working. But I will say the thing about it though, about going to those weekly weigh-ins, I learned that, okay, I can't eat the way I want. I can't just eat chips all the time. I have to learn how to move. It did send me in my life on every diet that I've been on, every diet that you could possibly imagine. And finally, I got to a point where I was like, I just can't diet anymore. I've got to figure out what this lifestyle is going to be. I did not have any sort of eating disorders. I've not had eating disorders. But I've had to learn how to manage. And so now I joke, I call it fat girl's revenge because I did go through that. So as an adult now, I had to learn it. So now I exercise as a part of what I do every day.
mhm.
I work out 5-6 days a week. And I love it. It just gives me energy. It gives me clarity. It's a part of my practice. I do eat clean. I eat well. So therefore, you know, health wise, I'm in pretty good shape. And working towards a good health span and great longevity, hopefully, God willing. But it was hard. It was hard as a young person to go through that. And I will tell you, it's so funny because even I don't have eating disorders. I have no body dysmorphia, I don't think, but I still see myself as a little bit of a chubby person. It's like I don't see what other people see really
Mm.
when I look at myself. And I am still critical.
No, this is something that I think is very true for women. I'm not sure about men. It's probably true for some of them, but we live in a culture that judges us on how we look. And even though we live in what is now considered an inclusive culture, it still is judging us on how we look. Every ad you see is showing something that's supposed to be the ideal. And whatever that ideal is, just by definition, ideal means it isn't real, you know? And
Exactly.
I grew up as a very skinny child, very. And I didn't want to be, I just was. People were not nice about
Right.
that. They felt that they were entitled to say
That's so
anything because I
crazy.
was skinny, it was sort of, in a way, I think it might have been jealousy, but it did not come off like that. It was like,
Sure.
look at you, and four eyes before they were cute, four eyes, tall and skinny, braids, flat chested, long feet. Trust me, I was criticized up until then. I started modeling. And when I was modeling,
Uh-huh.
oh, I could fit samples. Oh, this is suddenly,
Right.
suddenly there was a place for my body. And
Hmm.
then after I had my daughter, that body went away. Where'd the skinny girl go?
Who is this?
And so it's the opposite, but like of what you're saying, but it's the same point. I look in the mirror and say, where is the person that I used to know?
Yeah.
And we all are judging ourselves so much.
Yeah.
It's tough to find that space of pure self-love when the judgments are so great. And I think about our children. You have two children, I have one.
Yeah.
My daughter's in college now. And I mean, at every turn, there's
Yeah.
judgment. What have you taught your children about how to practice self-empowerment when others are throwing daggers?
Yeah, I think for the kids, I always wanted them to feel like they had something within them to offer the world, like find your own unique thing, whatever that is, you know, and that who you are, be who you are. Don't try to be somebody else. Like you're good, whoever this person is, and let's figure out who that is, you
Yeah.
know. Never you know, and they are pretty solid in themselves. You know, it's very interesting, even going through some of the school stuff and how people treated them and talked to them. It was always coming back here like, don't worry about what they're saying, you know, really, you are who you are. And then being around family and friends that really continue to validate that for them as young people, I think is really important. And also listening to them, you know, listening, really hearing, trying to hear what's going on with them without judgment, you know, not always easy as a parent. Even now, and my daughter, you know, my children are both out of college and adults at this point. And it's so funny, like with my daughter, I try, and I know she's just like, at this point, she just laughs at me when I like, you know, say stuff. I mean, she's an artist, and you know, the kids these days, they're always wearing their jeans and sweatshirts, and I wear jeans a lot too, but she's so cute. I'm like, can we wear something a little more fun? She's like, oh, ha ha. I'm good.
They are their own person. Hey, everybody, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole, and we are talking to Tonya Lewis Lee about empowerment, about women, about the future, and about her work. Tonya, one of the things that I knew you had done, and I looked early, because what has it been 2 years since you made your film? Is that 2 years?
Yeah, Aftershock. Yeah, 22 came out.
And so in preparing for this conversation, I looked at it again. And it's so powerful on lots of levels. You know, right now we are at the precipice of a presidential election where women's health, women's reproductive rights are on the table for all of us to look at and see, what does it mean to have any rights, or what will happen to those rights. And to really, what you've done is to look behind the curtain. What is actually happening as it relates particularly to women of color and maternal health care. So I'd like for us to, those who can see, you can look at, those who are listening, you can hear. Let's play the trailer of Aftershock and talk about it afterward.
Great.
My daughter's story is loud, colorful, and artful.
It's a girl!
She was awake, aware, and active. And yet she still died.
After she gave birth, Shamani was complaining that she had really sharp chest pains.
The ambulance came. I'm telling them the symptoms.
Is she on drugs?
Next set of people come in. Is she on drugs?
They kept asking her mother, is she on any drug?
I'm like, do y'all talk?
We waited a solid 12 hours.
She's gone.
Black women are 4 times more likely to die than their white counterparts with the same symptoms. Why is that?
This is a growing epidemic in our community.
Hundreds and thousands of men are going through this same situation.
Oh, you couldn't tell me that I wouldn't be there.
I've never lived in this house without her.
You just gotta keep pushing forward. I can't let Amber be another statistic.
I had a plan, I had it mapped out.
If these numbers were flipped around and white women were dying at the rate that black women are dying, it would be a national crisis.
We fight against maternal morbidity event by event in order to create change.
We could turn our pain into power and make something of this.
Shamani Gibson, we hear you, we see you.
I planned on spending a lifetime with Amber. I wanted to give her my life. This way, I'm still going to.
Sometimes
The revolution will be tweeted, Instagram, Facebook.
This fight is not over.
When black mothers die, there's a ripple effect. We call it Aftershock.
Powerful film, Tonya, and just makes you cry. You know, seeing these there's so many young women who are part of your film, young families. And that's important to say too, because they're young men, young black men stepping up, being family, which is not the stereotypical image, but young women dying because of neglect. As you were doing your research, and you mentioned that you were on this commission many years ago, as you were doing your research and over these years, what have you learned about Black female mortality and the impact that it has on our culture?
Well, the statistics are that, as with everything, we tend to index higher than white communities. So in maternal, our mortality and morbidity, we are 3 to 4 times more likely to die than our white counterparts in this country. That I've learned that when it comes to maternal mortality and morbidity, it is not about a pathology of Black women. It's really, the statistic is that actually when we made the film, 65% of those deaths were preventable. Now I think the statistic is up to like 90% of maternal mortality are preventable deaths. And often the culprit is that women are not seen or heard, meaning that women will show up with symptoms and say, I don't feel right, something's not right. And a healthcare provider will say, oh, no, you just had a baby, or, so you just don't know what you're feeling. But they do. And the 2 women in our film actually did go looking for help. They knew they didn't feel well, but their complaints were dismissed. And so it's and
because you mentioned, part of what you mentioned in the film is that people who are on Medicare, Medicaid, whichever one it is, where when you need assistance, are often completely overlooked and pushed to the side. Even when you have insurance, this can happen. And it's mentioned in your film, and many of us had our eyes open much wider when Serena Williams almost died in childbirth.
Doesn't matter your socioeconomics, doesn't matter your education level. As Black women, we have a higher chance of dying from our birth experiences than lesser educated, poorer white women. I mean, it really is across socioeconomic lines for us, and it's and it's a problem that can be solved if we really want to solve it as a culture. Really, to me, what I've come to is that we really need to rethink how we, as a culture, discuss and approach birthing. Birthing is an incredible, empowering experience that I didn't know when I had my children. I didn't know. And so what I've learned now is, and I don't want women to suffer. I'm not saying women should suffer from pain, but perhaps, and in the film, we did capture an amazing birth by a woman who gave birth in a birthing center with midwives. And she says it's the toughest thing she's ever done. But when you go through that process, you can do anything to raise this little child that you've just brought into the world. And the fact that women give birth, I mean, whatever you call yourself, it comes through the womb, you give birth. And that is a really empowering experience that has been taken away from us by men who have said that, let the doctor come in, lay back, and let us do all the work. I don't even use the word delivery anymore after making Aftershock. No, doctors don't deliver babies. Women birth babies. Doctor assist in the birthing. I think in thinking about the language we use around birthing is really important to give the power back to women. And I think, to me, that's where, again, it all starts from the birthing experience. If a woman has an empowered birthing experience where she has the support around her that she needs, that she chooses, because I think every woman should be able to choose the type of birth she wants to have. If a woman wants to give birth in a hospital with a doctor, that should be her choice. But if she wants to be with a midwife someplace else and get the support she needs, that's on her, because women do know. And so that's really what I've learned, and what I'm trying to now, the next iteration is, how do we change the culture of birthing so women feel empowered and not afraid and excited about what is a rite of passage for those women that choose and can give birth.
One of the things that you point out in the film is, statistically, I think 500% more women have C-sections today than they did in the 70s. That is a huge percentage.
It's crazy.
And doctors do have that as a default. many people, I know women who have selected their birth date based upon taxes or convenience. And I had a C-section. It wasn't what I had expected, but I needed to have one. So I was glad it existed. And the recovery was horrific.
No joke. No joke.
Surgery. This is not something for anybody to take lightly. And never mind, a lot of people die from major surgery. So when you talk about taking your power back, this is something that is being discussed so much these days around reproductive rights. But one of the things, another place where I saw you not so long ago was at my dear friend Elaine Welteroth's launch of Birth Fund a few months ago, when she launched her not-for-profit to help women who want to work with midwives. And in part, she started that because she had difficulty when she was giving birth to her first child. There are a lot of people who are waving the flag saying, come on, women need to have power over their bodies and to be trusted, that, hey,
right.
We don't need somebody else to say what needs to happen. But Tonya, why do you think it is that the fight is so ferocious to take that power away from us?
Well, look, I mean, I think the fact that we do give birth is scary to the powers that be. Right. I think the fact that we are so powerful, often the most powerful are the most oppressed, keeping us in check, wanting the secrets that we've had around this mystery of like a child growing inside of you, and you have the power there. I mean, I often say, I mean, whatever, people think, but when it comes to abortion, I think God already made the decision. Why are we discussing it? God did that. God said the baby comes through the woman. It's her choice. It's on her. How can a man override what God has already decided for all these Christians out here? It makes no sense to me. I don't understand that. But I really do think we are so powerful, and that men know that if they don't really keep us in check, do we really need them all that much? I mean, yes, we need the seed. But I think that's what their fear is based on. And I think that's what is really at hand here. And women have been powerful. One of the things we talk about in our documentary are the midwives. We give a little history lesson about midwives and the power that midwives had. I mean, even during the era of slavery, Black midwives were very powerful figures, often were able to earn money, were the center of the community, helping Africans who were enslaved in all kinds of community disputes. I mean, they were powerful figures who made good money. Yeah. And ultimately, post-slavery, doctors or white men saw the power and the money these women were making and decided to take that economy away from those women, take that power away from those women and disenfranchise them, thus disenfranchising our communities. Like, yeah. I mean, that was not, it's really fascinating. And here we are all these years later, so far away from our cultural way of birthing, which is also a very spiritual thing. Now we're birthing in sterile hospitals where death happens. Women who are pregnant aren't sick. Why am I in the hospital? It's because it's convenient to watching over, keeping tabs on what's going on with us. It's convenient for them. And again, it's about their economy. Yes. But I could go on because ultimately, the economy of birthing in hospitals doesn't work. So what you're seeing now is hospitals with labor and delivery units are closing up shop because they're not making enough money, leaving women in communities with no place now to birth. So they've gotten rid of the midwives. They can't make any more money on the birthing situation. So they're taking that away, leaving women with nothing. It's so frustrating. And so now we really need to build more midwives. We need to build more doctors and figure out how we're servicing women.
No question. Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We're talking to Tonya Lewis Lee. She's made a film called Aftershock. You can watch it on Hulu now. And it really does take you into the experience that families in particular, but even more broadly, what is happening in the space of reproductive rights and birth, and how at peril it is, especially for women of color. And I think it gives us a lot of things to think about, Tonya. And as I say, this is an election year. In a blink, there's an election.
We are here.
We are here. Actually, voting has started in many parts of the country. And I want to say that one of the things that I appreciated when I was watching the first day of the Democratic National Convention, I saw you. I saw you stand up.
Good.
And Crystal and other people. I was like, oh, my people are in the house. Can you take us into that experience? What was it like being there? And what are your thoughts about the Democratic National nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris?
So first of all, being at that convention was amazing. It was like a balm to the soul. It felt so good to be in a space that had a diversity of people and energy where, and I've heard Kamala Harris say this before, that we need to reclaim the flag. We need to reclaim our patriotism, right? And that's what it felt like in that hall. And it was, democracy can be fun. It can be energizing. We know it's serious. And I came away just fired up and ready to go. All the speeches I thought were so phenomenal. And then Vice President Harris I think that we're lucky she wants the job. And when it comes specifically to women's health, maternal health, she has really been on the forefront of all of that. As a senator, she introduced originally the Momnibus bills there to the Senate office, to the Senate, as we were trying to move the bills through. And she, as vice president, has remained a true champion of women's health, reproductive rights. And I think that she is going to be a tremendous president, especially for those issues, among others. And God, I'm just hoping that come November 5th, I wonder if actually on November 5th we'll even know, but that soon we will see a President Harris, and I think we'll all be better for it.
You know, I was walking down the street in my neighborhood in Harlem just a couple of days ago, ran into a woman whom I've known for many years, and she said to me, you know, I just don't know what's going to happen. And as she said this, she said, you know, I have relatives who are not voting for Kamala Harris. And so I said, okay, what's their reason? You know, we live in a free society. You can vote for whoever you want to vote for. And I said, why?
Absolutely.
And she said, because of the abortion issue. I said, what about the abortion issue? I said, are they Catholic? Because the Catholic piece in this is very real. For a lot of people who are Catholic are against abortion, but also reproductive rights is bigger than abortion. And we've seen that, like with what happens for people who want IVF and other things, lots of things have been wiped away because of the Dobbs decision. I'm mentioning this, Tonya, because there are people who are one issue voters who feel like, okay, if this person doesn't agree with my stance on X, then I cannot vote for them. What do you have to say about those people who may have drawn a line in the sand without looking at the big picture?
Yeah, that's a scary thought to me. Look, there is no perfect candidate. I know that there is no person that you're going to agree with on every single thing. But I think where we are right now in this election, we are really in a real culture war about who are we as human beings. And to me, when you look at a candidate who will lie, admit they lied, and keep lying, who will take, American citizens and throw them under the bus, use them for their own political gain, what that Republican candidate did to those two Black women election workers, lied about them, and this discarded them. What they've done with the Haitian community in Springfield, Ohio, that whole issue in Springfield, Ohio, that they have hijacked and lied about, not just for the Haitian community, but for that entire Springfield, Ohio community. Like this is what kind of human beings do we want to be? Do we want to be the kind that look out for each other, our neighbors, and care for each other? Or do we want to be the kind of people that just tear each other down? And so I understand that people have issues. I have issues that are important to me too. But at the same time, in this election today, I'm voting for the candidate that I believe that will help return us or help keep us on that road towards true humanity for all people. And that's what I would say to them. I get it. In past years, there are other Republicans that I could live with. You may not agree with them.
I think of John McCain, right? I didn't agree with his policies, but he was a gentleman, and he was a human. He was a human being, and
exactly.
He spoke to humanity and people, and also did not allow for people to be disrespectful. Right. And this notion of respect and disrespect is something that it's like a scab has been torn off of our culture, and people just feel like they can throw mud
and speak to each other in such horrible ways. And that's, on the one hand, some people may say, oh, well, that's just, it doesn't mean anything. It's just how people talk. But it has an impact. It has a real negative impact. I'm somebody who really works on my own positive energy, being positive. Like, I really work at it. And that kind of talk brings me down, which means I can't live to my highest vibration. And so therefore I'm not as good as I need to be for our society and our community. And that's real. That's a real impact. And that's what scares me, honestly, most about this election.
Mm-hmm. I've been practicing meditation for many years, and there's a Sufi saint called Rumi, and this particular thing is attributed to him. The 4 gateways of speech. This is supposed to be it is recommended that before you say anything to someone, you run it through the filter of the 4 gateways of speech. Is it true?
Right there.
Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it timely? Tonya, imagine if you took breath and ran those questions through. How many times would all of us, maybe now isn't the right time. Maybe I could say this a different way so that it wouldn't be so harsh. How do I say it in a kind way? Do I know what the truth is? And if I'm told, it's right now, we don't even know what the truth is. With the algorithms of the internet, we get reinforced whatever we have been told is true. And then you get more and more and more reinforcements of this. It is so hard to stand firm in your knowledge of something when, there was this thing termed fake news. When just the other day it was, well, I'll have to tell you anything in order to get you to pay attention to this, even if it's not true. What do we tell the next generation about figuring out the truth in these times? What do you think we can say?
Well, this is the thing, right? This is the fight with education. This is our fight in education. What did Donald Trump say years ago? I love the uneducated. I love people who can't think, is what he's saying. So, to me, it's first and foremost, we need to work on our critical thinking skills. We need to be educating people to be able to think for themselves instead of just seeing something and believing it. I think we have to teach people how to, really research. I remember when my kids were in school, social media was just starting. I mean, the internet had been around a little bit, but it was always about, they were taught to figure out what were good sources. You couldn't just pull anything off the internet and put it in a paper as a resource.
You
had to, right, you had to go and verify where this source came from, and was it a good enough source to actually be able to cite? Did it have credibility? Like, we have to be able to say, we've got to hearken back to that. Just because it's put in front of you doesn't mean it's true. And people need to really work on critical thinking skills and not be so easily duped, but also like be careful about what, I mean, oh God, our dear sister the other day going on saying that Kamala Harris was not Black. I mean, like, girl, what, where are you getting your information?
The scariest thing about that, and we're going to say this was Janet Jackson. We don't know what happened in that room to make this happen. But for me, the scariest part about that is it says to me that there are many people, more than we know, who are not paying attention at all, and who just take in whatever they hear and regurgitate it. There's a level of irresponsibility and ignorance in our culture today that is frightening when we think about the election. Because if someone like Janet Jackson is that uninformed and willing to say anything,
say it, double down on it.
Well, but see, doubling down is part of our culture now. People don't ever apologize. People don't ever.
Right.
I mean, I think that's a separate thing that is just as dangerous. That when you are wrong, I mean, we were taught by our parents, say you're wrong, apologize, learn, and don't pretend. The culture today says when you are wrong, don't admit that you're wrong and double down. So there's two things together. Ignorance and doubling down lead to results.
Misery. Lead to misery for all people involved, even the people who are perpetrating it. They're the most miserable.
That was one of the most frightening things that happened, I believe, because public figures, whether they're supposed to or not, have a lot of power. And to see that this public figure was just irresponsible, reckless, and also ignorant of something that is top of
clear.
Top of mind, so clear. Easy. But remember, the birther movement was also clear. And it was very clear who Barack Obama was and what his parentage was. And so what it means is that perpetuating lies works for some people to an extent, but that didn't actually work. So let's remember that it didn't work.
True. But so the race baiting is the key. The race, when it comes down to it, and as a Black person, I guess, to me, obviously, I see the world through, my lens, but it feels like all of this comes down to race and race baiting and keeping people separate and apart and fighting against each other. Oh, she's not even Black, so whatever. But what? Why does that even, what do you even say? Why are you even bringing that up?
Right.
What does it matter?
It's so sad. Yeah. Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We're going deep in here today with Tonya Lewis. This is the kind of conversation we need to have. Real conversation about what's going on in our culture. So Tonya, my audience would be mad at me if I didn't ask you something about your husband, Spike Lee, whom we love.
Okay, no problem.
But in a particular context, Spike has looked through the lens of Black culture for his whole career. He has told our stories. He has revealed the challenges that many of us have internally, and just what life is like. That glimpse into what life of Black folks is like. And you worked with him on some of his projects. What are those conversations like? That's what I want to know. What are conversations like when you're talking about, when you're processing our culture, and then, some of it ends up in a film, but, what are those real life conversations like for you guys, framing our world and how he and you look at it?
Yeah, I think, we just see, sometimes we're just, I can't believe some of the stuff that's happening, and we think about, how we can make things better. I will say, it's not always easy. Spike and I have been together now. We'll be married this year, 31 years. And so, it's in the earlier days, certainly when Spike is there, really challenging the system, and people don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear it. And there are consequences for being the one. I used to tease Spike. I would say, please don't say that. You would be like the first person shot on the plantation, because you're saying, y'all don't go by that. We need to do such and such. And so we got to be sometimes a little bit more subversive in how. So often the conversations we have is we agree, but we don't necessarily agree on the approach. Because. I'm trying to keep my head down and just get by, but I also appreciate the fact that Spike is very vocal. He is an emotional person. He is a thoughtful person. And if he sees something he doesn't believe is right, he's going to speak to it. And he recognizes that he does have the power of when he speaks, people will listen and pay attention, and it will get a conversation going, which is important. We need people like that, and I do really respect him for that. Even though sometimes it can be a little scary for the family. There are moments where the kids and I are like, oh my God, what did he say? Oh. No!
Wait. We ask that same question sometimes. Those are in the world.
What is he saying? Just don't speak.
But we appreciate him speaking anyway. And for you, as a strong woman, you lawyer first and now filmmaker and author and all these things. But you are Spike Lee's wife. There's a big shadow in terms of being the wife of a celebrity who is internationally regarded the way that he is. What has it been like for you to step into your own?
Yeah, I appreciate that because I really did have to figure out how to carve space for myself. It was because I could be completely consumed. I mean, we lived in Brooklyn. Right down the street, basically where he grew up, right around the corner from his office. If you had come to our neighborhood and said, where does Spike Lee live? They would have been like, oh, let's go by and ring the bell and see where they are. And I couldn't take it. And, he travels a lot. So I was often there with, my daughter at the time. And so I said, I can't live here. I'm moving. And so we moved to give myself literal space. And then, over the years, I've just had to, and I always wanted a creative life, and Spike was very supportive of that when we got married. So I stopped practicing law and sort of found and continued to try to find my voice in the work that I do. And it's worked for me. It's like what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation about radical self-care.
Yes.
Learning to listen to my own voice, hearing the cues from the universe about the direction that I should be going in and what I should be doing and how I should be doing that. Finding my own lane as a creative, being able to do the work that I want to do, and look to Spike for support and on occasion resources and inspiration for the work that I do, and also at the same time, being Spike Lee's wife is a part of who I am, and that's part of it. So it's just part of managing all of what the life is, and it's a blessing. It is, and it's a blessing. It's a blessing most days. Most days.
Well, and that's honest. For anybody who's been together for that long, the ride definitely includes bumps, and that's just absolutely, and that's real life. And I'm grateful, as we talked about from the beginning, that you talk about that too, because people need to know there is no movie life. It's real life. Before we go, and we are really out of time, I didn't get to talk to you about your supplements. Tell me in a nutshell what they are and what do you hope that they do for people?
So our Movita Organics are vitamin supplements. If you're looking for a best in class in a vitamin supplement, we're here for you. We have the basic vitamins, and what I mean by that is we have a multi, a B, a C, a D, prenatal, and a hair, skin, and nails. They are made from organic products. You can take them on an empty stomach, which most vitamin supplements you cannot. And because they are fermented, your body absorbs them like food, and you get the most bang for your buck. And I'm really proud of them. And I really,
right? How long?
Yeah. We've been around like 7 years, and you know, and the thing about it too is I'm a terrible spokesperson, but at the same, you know, because I will say no one vitamin is going to do it. Like I want it to be a part of an overall lifestyle for you, right? Like hopefully the vitamins help you, give you energy, or help you as you think about what you're doing, good for yourself. And that helps transfer over into the rest of your life.
And how do people find them?
They can go to Movita, which is like Movita Organics.com, or they can go to Amazon and find us there.
Tonya, this was so fast, and there's so much more.
I know.
But thank you so much. This has been long overdue, and I'm so grateful. We covered a lot of ground, and I feel really inspired. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Harriette. I've loved this conversation. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you for tuning in to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We had Tonya Lewis Lee. Go check out her Movita Organics and her film on Hulu, Aftershock. You can watch it right now. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.